This is the Your Career Story podcast, and you're listening to episode 68, the words of encouragement you need to hear after you get rejected from a job. Welcome to Your Career Story podcast, a show that's designed for rockstar professionals looking for that extra booster shot of confidence in their careers. Whether you're trying to get clarity on a job transition, want some work-life balance inspiration, or need a strategy to snag that promotion or raise, this podcast is for you. I'm your host, Jena, ex-Wall Streeter turned startup junkie who now coaches hundreds of clients, empowering them to take back control of the job search and land their dream job. So sit back, grab a glass of wine, and prepare yourself for your weekly boost of career confidence. Hello, friends, and welcome back to another episode of the Your Career Story podcast. I'm so excited to be with you here today. I am so excited for you if you have enrolled in Recruit the Employer. We closed the doors last night at midnight. We have some amazing women that are in the Recruit the Employer, the course program. And I'm just so excited to see all the amazing things that these women do in their careers, in their job transition, and how they start to think about themselves differently. Now, if you did not get on Recruit the Employer, makes me sad, but we will be reopening the doors sometime in the fall. So make sure that you keep checking back and you keep listening, because we're going to release when that course will open again sometime in the fall when I come back from my sabbatical. But today we're going to be talking a little bit, we're going to have a little bit of a gal pal, pep talk. So I wanted to do this episode because I just was having conversations with people on LinkedIn and on Instagram, and even some clients that I've had, of just how overwhelming and discouraging it can be when you get rejected from a job. And I 100% get that. So we're going to talk a little bit about what to do, or the encouragement that you actually need to hear if you've gotten rejected from a job. So typically this is usually how it goes down, right? You are so excited about a position. You're like, yes, I'm qualified for this. I'm totally going to be able to sell myself. I'm going to apply online. Maybe you get the interview and you're like, yes, let's keep going. Let's keep going. And then maybe you just don't get very far, right? So you either don't even get called back in the first place and it's like immediate rejection, or you get called in for an interview and you think it went really well. And then all of a sudden you get the call back saying, or if you do get a call back, you might get ghosted, right? You get a call back and you're like, why did they not want to move forward with me? Or maybe you've gotten to the last section or the last interview and you've been interviewing with everybody and it just doesn't pan out. That rejection can be super, super hard. So if that's happened to you, which if you're in the job search process, you probably know what I'm talking about. You've had this happen to you. It's inevitable to be rejected. I want to talk to you a little bit today about the things that I want you to be aware of, the things I want you to be careful of when you get rejected. So I'm going to talk about 4 main things that I feel like help me personally when I get rejected, especially in my work life. And here's the deal. We get rejected. We probably gotten rejected a lot in our life. Rejection is never fun. I don't know if it's my Enneagram 3-ness, but being rejected really, really hits to my core and really affects my self-esteem. And it's taken me a really long time, quite frankly, to get over it. Usually in my professional life, I'm going to be straight with you, I was okay with getting rejected in my professional life because I just powered through. For me, it always came up in my personal life. And that's the area that it really, really affected me. So here's some ways that you may have gotten rejected in your life. And not to put a salt in the wound or to bring stuff up from the past, but I think it's helpful to make these analogies with what's going on in your personal life, perhaps, to what's going on in your professional life. So when I was going through the college application process, I got rejected from my dream school, which at the time was Wake Forest. I technically actually didn't get totally rejected. I got waitlisted, which is essentially rejection, right? I remember that was the same day I found that out. It was the same day I found out I wasn't going to states for a choir competition, which y'all can make fun of me. I don't even care. I was in choir competitions and I didn't make it to states, which was really, really upsetting for me. So I found out both of those things. It was like a double whammy of rejection. And immediately I remember that feeling. I remember exactly where I was and I just felt awful. I felt bad about myself. I was like, man, see, this just proves that I'm not really any good. So my rejection story starts really early in my life. Yours may start when you weren't like the cool kid. You didn't get asked to be at the, cool kids table in high school or in middle school or in elementary school. Or maybe you had a crush on somebody and they just totally were not interested in you. That has happened to me probably my entire life until I met Brent. Maybe it was after a first date. I know for me, I make a lot of analogies to dating and the job search process, because I do feel like they're super connected. And I feel like a lot of the things I felt in the dating atmosphere was what a lot of people feel like also in the job atmosphere. And there's so many similarities between the two of those, because it feels really hard when you go on a first date with somebody and you like them and they reject you and they're like, you're just not interested, or they put you in the friend zone. Friends, I've been in the friend zone so many times. Or what I call the situationship place where, we're not exactly dating, but we're not dating, but like nothing's really happening and no one's really doing anything. Like that's that's rejection, right? Maybe rejection came for you when you didn't get promoted for that job and your coworker did, right? That's a form of rejection. Or maybe it's like if you're a business owner. I know this for me in the early stages of my business, I would take this very personally when a client decided not to hire me or not to work with me. I would get so down on myself and think, oh, I'm really not that great. I must not be that good. They're affirming all of the lies I've been believing about myself that I've been trying not to believe about myself. They're just affirming that that's true. Rejection brings up a lot of emotions about how we feel about ourselves, and also has a lot to do with how we are approaching our life and how we are reacting to what's going on in our life. So I want you to be really careful when rejection comes, because it's going to come. And I want you to get friendly with it. And we're going to talk a little bit about how to do that. But if you have been rejected from a job, just like whenever you're younger and you've been rejected, maybe dating or college or the cool kids at the table in high school or middle school, right? So we have lots of reference points for rejection. Usually you probably talk to a friend or your mom or your dad or some sort of person to help you walk through it. I'm going to be your person for today. So if you have gotten rejected from a job, I need to tell you some things that you definitely need to hear. So it's almost like we are sitting across from each other at a coffee shop, or we're sitting over at a happy hour and you're just like spilling your guts and I'm listening, and I'm going to tell you the things that I would tell you if we were meeting one-on-one. So I want you to listen up. I want you to soak it in, and I want you to believe everything I'm telling you. Because here's the deal. You are still worthy, even if you got rejected from a job. Even if that job said no thanks, but no thanks, that doesn't mean that it's never going to happen for you. So the first thing that I want you to be careful of, and I'm going to divide this up into 4 things. I like some structure. The first thing that I want you to be careful of is of the narrative you're telling yourself. So it is so easy to slip into the hum of not enough. It's so easy to be like, see, I knew it. I'm terrible. I'm not really any good. Nobody's going to want to hire me. This confidence boosting stuff is crap. No way, no how. I've just proven to myself I should just give up, right? So that narrative comes in. Those lies start to creep in again. But I need you to cut out the lies. I need you to cut out the lie that you're never going to be hired. I need you to cut out the lie that there's never going to be another opportunity that comes your way, because what you're doing is you're moving from abundance into scarcity. You're coming into agreement with something that's not going to serve you. It is not any better for you to think, you know what? I'm not going to get that job. It doesn't help you. Now, hoping is hard. I know that hoping is hard. And that's one of the things that rejection completely butts up against hope. I know this was true for me when I was dating, when I would, have hope about like a guy that I was seeing. I was kind of really excited about it. But I was scared to hope, and I was scared to have confidence and to act like I knew that I was a catch, because I was afraid that someone was going to prove that wrong. The same thing happens in the job search. So you may be like, I have hope. And then when the one company decides not to hire you or move forward, you immediately go back and slip into those lies. I need you to fight against that. I know it's hard. It's work. It's not easy. This personal development piece is not always easy, but the good things in life never really are super easy, right? There's usually some blood, sweat, and tears that you have to put into it. And especially if you have been training your brain to believe the lies, this is going to be an extra amount of work for you. But I promise you that if you do the work and you start stepping out of agreement with the lies, those lies will start to dissipate. I've seen that happen to me in my romantic life. I've seen it happen to me in my business. I've seen it happen to me even and I've talked about this before, like struggling with an eating disorder. And I started to step out of the lies that I was believing about myself, believing about my identity, and just associating with these negative connotations that come with rejection oftentimes. And I stepped into agreement with some truths about who I was and reminding me that I needed to step into abundance and step out of scarcity. Because as we know, mindset is half of the battle in the job search process. So if you've been rejected from a job, I need you to not slip into all of the worst case scenarios, slip into the no one's ever going to hire me. See, they're just proving me correct. Like, no, I don't need you to do that. Now, I don't know if you've ever watched the movie The Princess Bride. I love that movie. Brent and I actually watched it during quarantine. It was fun to rewatch it. He's a big movie buff and he knows pretty much every director probably. And he knows all the people. I know all the actors and I like to say what else they were in and he gets really annoyed with that. I digress. So there's a scene in there which is about the pit of despair. So I need you to not slip into the Princess Bride's pit of despair. I need you to lift yourself out of there and not slink into that because it's so easy to slip in. It is so easy. You have to fight to crawl yourself out because if you slip into that pit of despair and sit there, that's really not going to help you. I can guarantee you will not find success if you slip out of hope and into despair. I know it's hard to hold on to hope, but you've got to do it. And as a woman of faith, like one of the things that I really think about is God has a master plan. So this rejection, quote unquote, isn't by accident. And I can see that looking back on my career of things that didn't work out, of things in my business that didn't work out, that I was really disappointed with in the time that it happened. But I can see the fruit of why that happened now. So you have to trust that God's got a plan for you. And I believe that if we were talking across the table, I would tell you that. I would say God has a plan for you and that this is not a mistake. You are also not a mistake and he made you very unique and gifted in very specific ways. Don't forget that. Do not forget that. And I've even seen, again, to go back to the dating analogy, I was so disappointed when all of those guys didn't work out. But at the end of the day, I only really needed one guy to work out for me. And that was Brent. And I'm so grateful looking back. It's very clear to me that that wasn't an accident that guy 1, 2, and 3 didn't work out. It's very clear to me that though I was holding out hope that maybe this person would be the one, I really was only looking for the one, which happened to be Brent. Right? So it makes that wait a little bit more worth it. So I need you to step out of agreement with those lies that you're telling yourself. I need you to step into agreement with that you are worthy. You have something to offer. You have amazing skill sets and you are an asset to the right company. You just haven't found the right company. Just like it took me a really long time to find Brent, it may take you some time to find the right company. Just because a company rejects you, it just means you're closing a door and God's saying, move on, time to find the next thing. And I know that can feel debilitating. I know that can feel frustrating, but I truly, truly believe that we need to not let rejection affect us to our core so much. We need to really have it be kind of like it bounces off like a ping pong ball. So there's usually like 3 ways that I talk about emotions. When people say things to us, and this is relevant for you if you're in a toxic work environment and you're feeling rejected in your work environment, right? Same thing holds true if you're, got rejected from a job you applied for. You can either take that rejection like a dagger where it completely pierces you, right? It completely pierces you, cuts through you, you're feeling that pain for a long period of time. Or you can have it be like a burr. So those things that like stick to you, stick to your clothing if you're walking through the woods or something. Or you could have it stick to you like a burr. So it's like kind of irritating those words, but it's not exactly penetrating, right? Or you could take that rejection like a ping pong ball. You take it in and it bounces right off, right? You cannot let it consume you. The rejection consume you. You've got to move forward. You've got to keep moving forward. Rejection is hard, but if you move forward, you're going to be successful. So that's the first thing I want you to be careful of. Be careful of the narrative you tell yourself. The second thing that if we were sitting across from each other, what I would say to you is be careful of comparison. What can often happen when we are, applying to jobs and we end up seeing who the person is that got the job, we start stalking them a little bit on LinkedIn. We see what else they've done. And then in your brain, you start to go, well, I'm better than them. And I'm right? We go down this rabbit hole into that pit of comparison despair. Or we say, the opposite, where I'm not nearly as good as them. No wonder I didn't get the job. Either one of those pathways are not helpful. Even saying I'm better than them, that comparison game is not helpful for you at that point. So I need you to be really careful that when you get rejected from a job, that you don't go through this, don't go and stalk the person who did, one, and don't also be completely trapped by feeling like you're better. You may be. You 100% probably are better than the other person who got the job. That doesn't mean that you should think about that a lot. That doesn't mean you should ponder that, because that's not a really good use of your time or energy. We don't got time for that. I don't got time to be bogged down by those emotions. It's just not necessary to sit in that pace of comparison. And comparison can be really hard to get out of, because once you're doing it once, you're going to do it again and you're going to keep on doing it. And then guess what? All your energy is sucked up into comparing yourself to someone instead of actually doing the work, instead of actually running your own race. Their race is something different than yours. You do not have to consistently compare yourself. I know for me, like benchmarking is always important. And sometimes in entrepreneurship, I'll look at other people. I can't do that for very long, because that comparison is going to make me feel overwhelmed that I'm not doing enough, that I am not enough, when I know that's not true. And I can honestly say, I know that's not true. I know that I'm enough. I know that I have a great product for people. I know that my company is going to do great things for women in their careers. I know that. So if I'm looking to the left and to the right all the time, instead of looking at my path that God's paved for me, and I'm going to say the same thing to you, I'm going to be really distracted and I'm not actually going to be living out my mission. So I don't want you to be sitting and looking left to right to see what all the other people are doing. It's just not helpful. It's just not helpful. So the second thing I want you to be careful of, and that encouragement to you, is be careful of comparison. So be careful of the narrative you tell yourself, which is the big one. And then I need you to be careful of comparison. The third thing that I want you to be careful of is being careful of striving and straining. So a lot of you are my type A folks. You are very high achievers. If you listen to this podcast, you're really trying to move ahead in your career. You're excited about that. And it usually sometimes what will happen, because I've been there, when we get rejected, we try real hard. We refuse to be failures, because that's what we're telling ourselves. That's the lies that we're believing. And so we go to the other end of the spectrum and we really, really want to grab control. So we start to strive and strain our way there. And we're like, we're going to totally kill this. We're going to do 50 job postings today and I'm going to do 50 tomorrow. And I'm going to keep that moving forward, right? We get kind of crazy. That's the best way to put it. We get kind of crazy because we are instead just holding on so tightly. And this is something, again, I'm going to revert back to dating because I think it's so relevant. When I was in the dating scene, one of my best friends said to me, because I was really upset about dating and really upset about where that was going, because it wasn't really going anywhere. And I just felt like I was just clenching on so tight. And one of my best friends, she said to me, Jena, nothing good in your life has ever happened from you holding on like you're on a roller coaster. The things that have happened that are really good in your life are things that God's just placed and you have had open hands and you just had a very free posture. It is a posture change. It's a way that you move in the world when you are clenching really tight versus having open hands. And so you have to be really careful if you're getting rejected to not try and be like, well, I'm going to prove them wrong and just go into striving and straining, because you're going to burn yourself out. It's not actually conducive. It's not actually helpful. And control is not the way. Control is not the way. I mean, this is true even when you think about, working out or health related things. I know for myself, when I was really young, I really was trying to strive and strain my way to losing weight, which I didn't need to lose weight. There was none of that going on. There was a lot of identity issues that I had. But when I was getting frustrated with the way that I looked, I went to the other extreme because I was trying to control. I was trying to strive and strain my way there. And honestly, I ended up gaining weight because I was so stressed out. So it kind of backfires. So I need you to resist the temptation to hit the ground running immediately after you get rejected. What I recommend is once you've been rejected from something, whether it's a person or, a relationship or it's a job or it's a promotion, whatever, take a beat. Take a beat before you jump back into the ring. Now, don't take a beat for 6 months, but take a beat for a little bit. Sometimes you just need a break. I know for myself, when I was in the dating scene and I got rejected for the third time in a row, I was like, I just need a break. This is really painful and I don't like how this makes me feel. I do need to take a little bit of a break and go into this with change my mindset, change my heart, have some open hands about it. And then once I do that, that's when I can feel more rejuvenated, right? To go back and have that hope. So it's okay to take a little bit of a hot break, right? It's okay to say you know what? I'm going to take a break from this job searching for a day or two, give myself a little bit of a breather because that was really painful. I've had all these rejections in a row, but I'm not going to give up. And that is the fourth thing that I want you to be careful of, not giving up. I want you to be careful of striving and straining, but don't go so far that when you're taking a break that you just decide to give up completely. I don't want you to go to that extreme either. Living somewhere in the middle. The other thing that when I'm thinking about with striving and straining is what it's similar to is like, let's say that you were going on some dates with a person and he or she decided that you were going out with them, that you were having a great old time. And then you got a text message like, sorry, I just want to be friends, or like, don't want to see you anymore. And you're super bummed and you immediately go onto an online dating site. I've done it. So I'm not even shaming you guys if you've done that. You immediately go on an online dating site and you get back after it. You're like, I'm going to fix this. I'm going to show them. Somebody's going to really want me, right? That's not what we want to do in the job search process. So I don't want you to strive and strain your way there. I don't want you to have to try and be totally in control. So then again, that fourth one that I want you to be careful of, if we are sitting across from each other and we're just having a cup of coffee, which I wish we could do, by the way, I wish we were having like a big podcast party and we're just like all hanging out. Like that would be the best time ever. But if we were actually sitting one-on-one, I would say just be careful that you don't get so bitter that you burn out and that you give up, because resiliency is truly the key to success in your career. And part of it is you have to pace yourself. I've learned this the hard way. I'm going to be talking about why I'm taking my sabbatical and how I'm taking it. Because if you have a lot of rejections in a row, it is natural for you to feel the emotions around it. You obviously need to do the mindset work to get your mind right, make sure you're telling yourself a good narrative, not a bad narrative, and that you are protecting yourself from comparing yourself to other people and protecting yourself from being overzealous on the other end and trying to really make up for it and almost do like this revenge, striving and straining thing. But I also think that knowing that you have to keep going at a steady pace, because resiliency is truly, truly the key. We mentioned this before, but getting comfortable with rejection was one of the best things that I did for my life and for my career. And I just made it my mission to get rejected more often. There's a book out there and I don't know the name of it, but we're going to find it, I think. And if we don't, it might not be in the show notes. So I apologize in advance, but there is an article that I read or a book that I was reading that had this gentleman who purposefully tried to get rejected every day so that he would become more resilient to the word no. And I listened to that and I was like, I love that idea. I love the idea of purposely putting yourself in quote unquote harm's way to get rejected. So he would go on like multiple dates, or he would like even call and try to negotiate something for his car insurance, just expecting them to say no anyways, but just to get used to hearing the word no so it wouldn't hold so much weight. And I can honestly say that for myself, I have gotten very, very comfortable with rejection. And now sometimes it totally blinds me whenever I get rejected in whatever capacity. But I would say for the most part, I have gotten myself trained and I've trained my mind that I might get rejected. That's okay. I will live. I will move on. It doesn't define who I am. And I start that cycle all over again. And so I want you to get really comfortable with rejection, to not let it be such a big deal in your life. I know that it can be, but it doesn't have to be. So I almost want to, and I hate using this word because I actually don't think it's important we need to process our emotions, right? So hear me when I say this. I'm not telling you not to process your emotions, but I've almost become callous to the rejection. Because if it doesn't affect me, I can keep moving forward. If it affects me, I'm going to be down for the count for a lot of days. I know that for me to be on mission in my life, I can't be down for the count for a couple of days just because I'm feeling bad about myself. I need to know who I am, whose I am, what I'm about, and what my mission is. When I'm very clear on that, rejection has no place. I'm like, that sucks. Moving on. Right? I've almost become callous to the rejection, listening when I need to of like, is there something that I could have done better to make sure that I didn't get rejected, right? If it's an improvement of sorts. But for the most part, I would say that I have gotten really comfortable with rejection and it's made my work life a lot easier and it's made my home life a lot easier. So it's just something that I would think about. How I would ask yourself the question, how am I affected by rejection when I get rejected? And that's why I give you some examples in the beginning to think through. Like, here's some examples of some times when I got rejected. I would journal through it. Here's a time when I got rejected. Here's how I felt. This is what I believed about myself. Here is the truth, and cover it. So I'm going to leave you with this, a very special note to you. Like if I was writing you a text or sending you a letter in the mail, if you're feeling like you don't know who you are or the truth about what your capabilities are, I'm going to tell you a little bit about that. I'm going to share with you what I would personally write to you if We knew each other one-on-one. We knew each other face-to-face, and we were having a conversation. I would say, friend, you are so very gifted. Your talents are unique to you, and whether or not a company decides to hire you or not does not determine your worth. You were made uniquely and specifically, and just because this didn't work out doesn't mean there aren't a zillion more opportunities literally out there. I know you feel upset and hurt and frustrated, and you just want this job searching nonsense to be over. But here's what I know about God's story and God's plan. He is never a second early, nor is he a second late. He is precisely on time with each and every move and pivot in your life. And I believe that for each and every one of you. So keep moving forward. Don't stay stuck. And remember, you have something amazing to offer to a company. You are the asset. And that company would be absolutely dang lucky to have you on their team. So I'm cheering you on from good old Franklin, Tennessee. You have got this. So friends, it's been really fun to spend this Wednesday with you. If you have been feeling frustrated or overwhelmed or just tired of getting rejected from the job, I totally get that. But I need you to re-listen to this to remind you of who you are, to make sure that you're setting yourself up for success. And I would love to hear from you. Send me a message on LinkedIn or Instagram and tell me if this podcast was helpful for you. If you felt like you were encouraged after it, I would love to hear from you. But yes, as I said before, I'm cheering you on from good old Franklin, Tennessee. Hey, y'all. Thanks so much for listening to Your Career Story podcast. I would love to get to meet you. And there are a couple of ways that we can connect in between episodes. First and foremost, you know I love my LinkedIn. Second is via Instagram. And third is over on my website. I actually have a special spot just for you full of fun, free resources. So all you have to do is go to www.jenaviviano.com/resources. Super simple for a bunch of freebies that will help you boost your career. Hope to see you next week.